Hey everybody, Alaskan Beard here with my pickups from June of 2019. I'm a little bit late, but it's with good reason. I had some other work going on and yeah, I'm here now. But as you can see kind of around me, we have a pretty good haul from the last couple months, or I guess the month of June. Over my right shoulder you can see my thrift store and Amazon pickups. My Amazon pickups are kind of bunched up in the middle there. But yeah, it was a pretty good month for thrift stores for sure. They're not really something we have a lot of in Alaska, and the ones we do have don't really have a lot of video games, but that is not the case down here, thankfully. And then over my left shoulder you can see mostly my eBay pickups. These were pretty much all like dedicated purchases for a future video. But we're still going to show them off today anyways, because who knows when that video is going to come out. And then behind me you can see a couple vinyl records that I think are pretty badass too. So yeah, let's jump in. This month I think we're going to break the pickups up by their source, starting with thrift and secondhand stores. Before I jump in, I just wanted to mention that a lot of these cases are beat up, but don't worry. Rather than spend the time to clean them up, I plan on just replacing the cases when I have some time. Alright, let's jump into the games. First, we have Prototype 2 for the PS3 and Prototype 2 Collector's Edition for the Xbox 360. I found these both at the same shop and I had to pick them up. My philosophy is that most of the time, the more editions, the merrier. Next, we have Cabela's Alaskan Adventure. I feel a bit nostalgic for Cabela's games, which is probably not the norm for everybody, but having played them a bunch when I was a kid, I was super excited when I saw Cabela's Alaskan Adventure for the PS2. It immediately went to the buy pile. You'll hopefully be seeing this in another video someday. Next, we have Dave Mirra's Freestyle BMX2 for the PS2, or at least the case for it. The disc that was actually in the case is Dave Mirra's Freestyle BMX 1 for the PS1. So now I just need the case for the first game and the disc for the second. It's like a 2-for-1 special with more steps. Then we have Mission Impossible Operation Surma for the PS2. I had forgotten all about this game until I saw the cover, but it's another one I played for hours and hours and hours when I was a kid. I think probably mostly for the soundtrack, but I'm happy to have it in my collection either way. Taking a quick break from games, I have a port multiplier for the PS1. As I'm learning recently, a lot of early consoles had port multipliers, and now I have my very own for the PS1. Jumping back to games, we have Gran Turismo for the PS1. I've had Gran Turismo 2 for the PS1 since I was a wee lad, but I never managed to get Gran Turismo 1 until now, that is. The next game I bought mostly to feature in a video later down the road. It's Grand Theft Auto 2 for the PS1. Moving to our next release, Treasure Planet for the PS1. I don't have a specific reason for getting this game, but it's for the PS1 and I like the IP, so hey, I bought it. Next pickup is SOCOM US Navy SEALs Confrontation for the PS3. What a mouthful. I think I spent the better part of summer when I was younger playing SOCOM Combined Assault for the PS2, so when I saw this, I had to have it. Moving on, we have Harry Potter Quidditch World Cup. I love Harry Potter video games for no reason in particular, so when I saw Harry Potter Quidditch World Cup, a game I didn't have for the GameCube, I had to snag it. It'll also probably make its way into another video eventually. Next, we have SSX On Tour for the PS2. SSX Tricky was one of my most played games on the PS2, and somehow I ended up playing SSX 3 and SSX, but apparently skipped SSX On Tour. It was literally the only decent game I found after visiting 5 Goodwills that day. The next release is pretty much worthless and purely nostalgic. Back in 2011, I played Star Wars The Old Republic at launch, and I still do on occasion. So now I have a physical copy of pretty much just the installer. The keys that came with it, of course, are expired, but I think it's still pretty neat to have. Our last thrift store game is WWF Raw for the Super Nintendo. There's literally no rhyme or reason behind getting this, but I have it now. The last few thrift store pickups are actually game guides. Once upon a time, I was collecting whatever crappy paperback guide I could find in the Walmart discount section, but I've since pruned my collection and decided it was really only worth it to collect stylized guides for games I actually enjoy. So without further ado, our first game guide is the Collector's Edition Prima Guide for Prince of Persia 2008. This is actually a really badass release that's making me consider pursuing more guides in the future. The whole book is beautifully stylized, as a collector's edition should be, with gold embossing on the front and back and stylized page borders. There's also a lot inside the guide, as you'd expect. There's a decent amount of information before the guide begins, like introducing characters and talking about the backstory. Then, of course, we have the, guide itself, and then a guide to the trophies. But then we have something pretty special, 20 pages of making of content and concept art, things that I've made no secret about loving in the past. I'm not sure I would have bought this guide on release with a price tag of probably around $25, but it's definitely worth it now at around $8. The next guide we have is the official Halo 2 guide. This time, it's just a game guide with very little extras, and it's only paperback. But for such a monumental game, I figured I could pay $2 and give up a little bit of shelf space. Next, we have something that isn't actually a game guide, but I thought it was close enough and would fit with the rest of these pickups. It's Alan Wake Illuminated, a 175-page hardcover book detailing the creation of Alan Wake. While not the most monumental game, it was a great release, and this book has some fantastic content. Last, we have our biggest book pickup of the month, the Fable III guide, coming in at a massive 450 pages with almost 80 pages of concept art. I think I paid $10 for this, and I think I would pay $10 for just 80 pages of concept art. This will be an awesome addition to my collection. So yeah, while my game pickups were a little lackluster, my book pickups definitely were not. My June haul has definitely put gaming books back on my radar. Before we get to the next category of games, I just wanted to talk about buying games secondhand for a second. Like I mentioned in the intro, there weren't a ton of secondhand shops in Alaska, and the ones that existed rarely had games. But man, isn't it an interesting market down here? People just beat the crap out of their games and pretty much give them away to a store to sell. Most of the games I got will absolutely need their covers replaced. All that said though, I don't think the stores are doing a much better job. I know that everyone that buys used games has experience with stickers, but God, I found some games with stickers in 5 different spots. Just why? I just need one price, there's only one barcode, cover that up with a sticker and call it a day. And while we're talking about the stores, some of these places think their games are worth their weight in gold. It's not often I find games in better quality and significantly cheaper on eBay, but compared to a couple specific stores I visited, that was the case for all of their games. I'm talking they had at least a 50% markup on top of what I would call fair market value. I get they want to make money, but who's buying these games at a 50% markup? Moving on from thrift store woes, we have what I'm going to call new old stock pickups, and this month we only have one. It's a lot of UMDs I got from Amazon. I don't remember how I found it, but when I saw it, I just had to get it. I'll list the pickups off kind of rapid fire, and then I'll talk about them a little bit. NBA The Inside 09, MLB The Show 10, MLB The Show 09, NBA The Inside 10, Beavis and Butthead, The Mike Judge Collection, Volume 2, Beavis and Butthead, The Mike Judge Collection, Volume 3, Wildboyz, Volume 1, Unrated, Wildboyz, Volume 2, Unrated, Kill Bill, Volume 2, Aeon Flux, Robin Big, Volume 1, Uncensored, Robin Big, Volume 2, Uncensored, Family Guy, Blue Harvest, Jet Li, Hero, Seth MacFarlane's Cavalcade of Cartoon Comedy, Clerks, Tron, Viva La Bam, Volume 3, Viva La Bam, Volume 4, and last, Jackass, Volume 2. So as you can see, this lot is made up of about half MTV shows from the mid-2000s, a handful of sports games, and a smattering of movies. None of these are really anything special, least of all the sports games, but I thought for the price they would make good additions to my collection since I've been loving the PSP lately. Next, we have a bunch of games from eBay, but before getting into them, I just wanted to mention that a lot of these games are going to seem random as hell. The reason for that is that they're ingredients in a set of videos I'm working on called Collection Completed. I'm not going to give any details beyond that, but some of the more sporadic items, that's what they're for. First, we have a bunch of jam packs. These are hopefully going to be part of a Collection Completed video someday, but even if they aren't, they're still fantastic items to have. First, we have the very first Jam Pack Volume 1. It was released in January of 1997 for the PS1. It came with a few notable games, which I'll list, with the rest of the demos on screen. we have The Lost World, Jurassic Park, Dynasty Warriors, Pitfall 3D, which I kept saying is Pitfall for no reason in particular, and MDK. As a bit of a side tangent, there was a game I remember playing when I was younger, probably about 8, on my grandparents' iMac. Well, I did some Googling about a year ago, something like Triangle Head Alien Shooter Mac, and I finally found the name of the game, MDK. I'd seriously been trying to remember the name of this game for the better part of the last 5 years, but I couldn't quite remember enough details to Google it. I digress. It's very cool to have the demo for it. Now we have Jam Pack Volume 2, another PS1 Jam Pack, this time with Cool Borders 2, Test Drive 4, Parappa the Rappa, and Tomb Raider 2. Then we have the Winter 2000 Jam Pack. Of note on this release, we have Spyro, Year of the Dragon, Cool Borders 2001, Spider-Man, Matt Hoffman's Pro BMX, and Crash Bash. Something interesting to me I noticed is that there were a lot of sports games included on the PS1 releases, and that seemed to change a bit when we got into the PS2 releases. With that said, we have the Summer 2001 Jam Pack, which is the first PS2 Jam Pack released. This time we have ATV Off-Road Fury, Cool Borders 2001, again, Eco, Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver 2, MX 2002, Red Faction, and Star Wars Starfighter. For their first PS2 Jam Pack, I'd say they did a pretty damn good job. Moving on, we have the Winter 2002 Jam Pack. This release brings us The Mark of Kree, Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus, SOCOM US Navy SEALs, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, Stuntman, Treasure Planet, Rygar, The Legendary Adventure, and Tomb Raider, The Angel of Darkness. Worth noting, this is about the time they started including trailers on these jam packs, so not all these games listed are demos. Then we have the Summer 2003 Jam Pack, bringing us ATV Off-Road Fury 2, Silent Hill 3, NBA Streets Volume 2, Siphon Filter, The Omega Strain, then the GOAT, the one and only, friggin' Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell. Oh, yeah, and goddamn Jack 2. This was a top tier pack of demos, and as I've said in the past, I really wish I had these as a kid. 10-year-old me would have lost his shit playing these games. Skipping a bunch of releases, we move to Jam Pack Volume 13. This time we have Shadow of the Colossus, Burnout Revenge, Sly 3 Honor Among Thieves, Soul Calibur 3, Jack X Combat Racing, Ratchet, Deadlocked, Castlevania Curse of Darkness, and Brothers in Arms Earned in Blood. Another fantastic collection of games. Now we have the second to last Jam Pack released, and the last Jam Pack I picked up this month, Jam Pack Volume 14. It's interesting to see just how they reuse some games from previous releases. This time around we have Shadow of the Colossus, Okami, Ratchet Deadlocked, Black, and Tomb Raider Legend. Moving on from our jam packs, we have a bunch more miscellaneous pickups, most of which are hopefully going to end up in another video before too long. The first is for a collection completed video, but it's also just an awesome pickup. It's Prince of Persia for the NES. Also worth noting, I plan on getting custom cases for all my NES games at some point, so loose games like this with the manual are perfect for my collection. Next, we have Banjo-Tooie, complete in box. Banjo-Kazooie was one of my favorite N64 games as a kid, and I'm ashamed to say I haven't even played this release. Next, we have a lot of 3 GBA games: Crash Bandicoot Purple, Ripto's Rage, Crash Bandicoot The Huge Adventure, and Spyro Season of Ice. Regarding Crash Bandicoot Purple, I still need to get Spyro Orange to complete the set, but I'm happy to have half of it, and a couple bonus games. Next release is Banjo-Kazooie Grunty's Revenge. Worth mentioning is that just like the NES releases, I plan on getting custom cases for all my Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance releases at some point, so having a loose cart is actually pretty good for me. Moving on, we have another Banjo release, this time Banjo Pilot. Switching gears, we have Spyro 2, Ripto's Rage for the PS1, Just like Banjo-Tooie, this is a sequel I never actually played as a kid. Next, we have SSX On Tour for the PSP. The sole reason for this pickup is its inclusion in a future video. The next pickup has a bit more backstory, I guess. When I was a wee lad, one of the only new NES games I got was Iron Sword, Wizards and Warriors. We got it used from a game rental place, and I've had it ever since. And while browsing eBay, I saw a bunch of manuals and thought, hey, maybe I should pick this one up. We have Ratchet and Clank. I bought this because I thought my original copy of the game was too scratched to play. Turns out the issue was actually with my PS2. Either way, I now have both the original release and the greatest hits edition of Ratchet and Clank, so that's pretty cool. The last two eBay pickups are both Scooby games. The first is Scooby-Doo Mystery Mayhem, and the second is Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed. And that does it for my eBay pickups. So moving on, let's cover some newly released items. The first of which is one that I have some history with, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, which for some reason is a Switch exclusive. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2 was a game I got when I got my first Xbox 360, the first console I actually bought myself. It came in a kind of dual pack along with Forza Motorsport 2, and since I didn't get games when I got my console, because I didn't have any more money than what was necessary to buy the console, I played both these games a lot, so it's cool to have a sequel to Marvel Ultimate Alliance. The second and last new game I got is The First Tree. This is a physical PS4 release from Limited Run Games, and I mainly got this because I thought my SO might like the game, and I'm not really set up to play PC games on the big screen, so I'm kind of limited to switching PS4 releases if I want to play or share the experience with others. Then we have a couple of vinyl records. For anyone that doesn't know, vinyl is the only physical media I try to collect, like audio, movies and stuff. Vinyl's the only one. So when Limited Run Games had a sale a while back, I just had to pick up these two RuneScape albums. I played the crap out of RuneScape when I was younger, and I think the music is fantastic, so having vinyl releases is kind of a no-brainer. But yeah, that covers it for June's pickups. This month was pretty heavy, partially because of thrifting, but also because I got a bunch of releases with the intent to feature them in videos in the future. But yeah, I'm super happy with a lot of what I got, especially the books, and definitely the jam packs. And speaking of the jam packs, I'm not too far off from having all of them. I'm not sure what the rest of the collection is going to cost. Hopefully there aren't any super rare releases that are pretty spendy, but I'm close. I hope some of these pickups are interesting enough to see again, because a lot of them will be back eventually, and I hope you enjoyed the video as a whole. If you did, please consider dropping a like and subscribing to the channel. As always, I'll see you guys next time around.